La sobretaula.
Avui, a Empanada Cultural, us portem una d'aquestes pel·lícules trillades, potser de les més trillades de l'any, que és Fright Barry. I per poder-ne parlar, què millor que tenint el seu director a l'altra banda de la pantalla, que és Ryan Kruger, el director i guionista, per parlar una mica de tot plegat. Hi, Ryan, and welcome to Empanada Cultural.
Welcome, Ryan.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me.
So I think my experience and the experience of all people that have seen this movie is really fucked up and really weird. And I think the first question that I make when I watch this movie is like, okay, Ryan, you as a director, you as a script writer, what the hell is this movie about? What the hell is Fright Barry about?
Well, originally, I have to go back a bit. So, originally, I shot a 3-minute experimental film about a drug addict and the day in the life of a drug addict. It was like a 3-minute short, and it was just a guy living in an abandoned building, a heroin addict, off his head on drugs. And that was just a standalone experimental film. So it was only like a year or two after that when I got this idea and, to make it into a feature. So, the short kind of stands alone. It doesn't continue off it. It was more of the drug addict character that, as we see Barry at the start of the film. So the film is really about, it's just basically, a heroin addict that gets abducted by aliens and then takes his body on a trip, around Cape Town. It's almost like a road movie without the car, and Barry is the car. So we meet in all these different characters as we go along, and overall, that's kind of it. That's kind of the story. That's it. It's a very easy, simple story. The movie's not really about the story. It's about the journey and the way I filmed it. That you go on this journey with Barry. You go on this drug trip with Barry. So I designed it in a certain way to be, to feel awkward, to feel unpredictable. And you go on this journey. And by the end of the movie, you're just like, what the fuck did I just watch? And, and you want to take a shower because you just feel dirty. So it's all about the trip, and it's all about, the journey as you go along with this character. And it's up to you if you want to take this journey, because it's the type of film where you will either love it or you'll hate it.
Yeah, totally. Definitely.
There's no in between. And that's great. And it's one of those movies, the people that love it will rave about it. The people that don't like it will also rave about it in the wrong way. But it's good because, it is impossible to make a movie to please everybody. And this is a very experimental, film, and it's designed to make you feel uncomfortable. It's designed for you to go on this trip. And it's one of those movies. It's definitely not for anybody. So even the people that don't like it will talk about it. And even some of the people that listen to somebody dissing the film, you'll be like, that actually sounds like my type of film. I actually want to watch this film.
You're telling us, it's like an alien walking simulator.
And even the short that you made before Fright Barry, that is also called Fright Barry. I enjoy that when the first shot is eggs. Fried eggs. An eggs scrambled. It's like, okay, I'm gonna talk about a man that is like fried and scrambled eggs.
And also for these TV ads, for the drugs, that this is your brain. This is your brain on drugs.
Drugs. Yeah, exactly. And that was the reference. That was like the reference to that. And that's why I'm saying it is just like, I know who I was making this film for. For me personally, I want to make something that I haven't seen before and something that I would be interested in, but it's also made for a certain audience that I know, all those fanboys and stuff that will love this type of movie. And that's why I'm saying it's definitely not for everyone. Like, for example, in South Africa, when we had the premiere in Johannesburg, My uncle, I wasn't there at the time, I was in America, but my uncle watched it. And my uncle was like, so my dad said to my uncle, what did you think of Ryan's film? And he's like, it's fucking shit. Fucking shit. And then it was only about a month later, my dad was on the phone to him and I said, hey, Uncle Giovanni, why did you say my movie was shit? And he's like, no, and he's like backpedaling. And I said, it's okay. I said, it's definitely, you are not my target market. You are definitely, I didn't expect you to like it. I even told you you're not going to like it before you watched it. And that's the thing. And that's okay. It's definitely not for everybody,
Yeah, I remember in Barcelona a few years ago, it came here to a horror festival. George Badgery, it was the director of Necromantic. It was a really fucked up about, obviously, a necromantic couple that steals a body and have sex with. But he told us that in the premiere with his parents, he asked, what was the movie? Did you like it? And the parents were, well, the music, it was really good because it was a piano, like a melodramatic piano. Yeah. So not for everyone. Yeah. And also, I think for both of us, we see it, Fried Barry, not as exclusively a movie. It's like more like an experience. Like
absolutely.
In my opinion, I remember these Gaspar Noé films like Climax or Enter the Void that are not only for the drugs, but like this camera that follows a fucked up character, and And what was your goal in this movie? Like from the script writing, you have like, okay, I want to do this because you've directed also music clips, so it's more like, okay, I'm gonna do like a based on a storyline in a music clip.
Yeah, for me, it was Fried Barry's, like you said, it's an experience, it's a feeling, and it's a tone. I mean, I went out there to make, a cult style film for a certain audience that I know would love it. At the same time, like I said, I went out there to try and make a cult film, and normally you make a film and it becomes like a cult film. But at the same time, with all the cult films and stuff that I love, as a filmmaker, you've got to stay on this line. If you don't keep on this certain line, it can go too much this way or you can go too much that way. So there were scenes that we edited and it was really funny and it was really good. And I was like, it's not the right tone. We have to make it more cinematic, or we have to make it more toned down, even though it was funny. And I'm like, there is lots of funny bits in the movie, but it has to be a certain tone. So it's also very much where I was at the time in my life, where I in a nutshell, I went through like a really hard time before I made this movie. I had something wrong with my kidney. I got sepsis. I went through a breakup. I nearly died. And it was just all these hectic things that happened to me. And then I went into depression. And at that time, I was like, when I hit rock bottom, I was like, what is the number one thing that I've always wanted to do? And it was to make a movie. And then I have all these other scripts, that I could have made. And then when I came up with this idea, I just knew it was right. We're living in the generation of remakes. Everything is remade.
Yeah, definitely.
Sometimes it's a different title. Maybe the original was in the, everything's remade, or it's a certain story and it's in the desert. And now we've taken the same story and we put it in space. So what it learned as well for me as a filmmaker is I haven't seen this film before. And I have all these other scripts that I could have chose, but I was like, fuck, I haven't seen this film before. And that's what made me interested to make this film. Going back to you talking about like the script and what I was thinking of, I just wanted to experience and let the audience experience what this character's going through, this experience, and going on this journey. And the interesting thing where I was at the time and what I wanted to do with this project was, to have a lot of creativity, not have a script and it be solid that we have to do this. The interesting thing about Fried Barry, how it was made, was we shot 28 days over a year and a half. And with that was, the main continuity of the movie was Fried Barry, was Gary, the character. Yeah. And I wrote a brief scene breakdown in 3 days for 50% of the movie.
Wow.
Where it was like, Barry does this, Barry goes to the supermarket, Barry does this. And then that was it. And then all the main pieces of dialogue I wrote, and then the movie developed as we were making. So a lot of the movie, like 90% of the movie, was workshopped and directed and improv on the day when we were shooting. There was no hardcore script apart from certain scenes which I wrote a lot of dialogue for. And then that was it. So everything else was like, okay, we're in the supermarket. We've got the checkout girl. We've got the guy that sells the cheese. And then it's connecting stuff together and being in that moment and coming up with ideas and that creativity and that improv. So a lot of the film was all improv and being in the moment at the time. Mm-hmm. Let's try this. Okay, cool. And action. Okay, let's maybe say this and maybe say that and take this bit away. And that's how it maybe developed. And there was some characters that we had in the movie that we finished with them and then they were done. And then I was like, no, we got to bring the prostitute back and we got to bring the baby back. And, it would be funny if this happened. And that's how the movie developed. So like I said, 90% of the movie was improvised. And the interesting thing was Gary Green, the lead actor, Fry Barry, he wasn't an actor. He's normally an extra in the background normally. So he was the only one that didn't improvise. Like the whole time I was like, Gary, don't do this. Don't do that. Just listen to exactly what I say. Don't do anything else. I don't want you to improvise. Just do exactly what I say. And there'll be scenes where the camera's here and when we're busy filming him, and then I'd be off the lens going, okay, do this face. Okay, now do this face. Now do this face. And because he's not a trained actor, so I had to work very close with him and build the movie around him. In the first 10 minutes of the movie, we see, drug addict Barry. And then after he gets abducted, and then he's this different character. So yeah, he was the only one that didn't improvise, and I had to work super close.
Gary Green, the main character.
Yeah, exactly.
Fried Barry, it was an act, not an actor, a real person made for this role. How you met Gary Green? Which was the first interaction between you and Gary Green?
So I've known Gary now for about 11 years. So I was on set of a movie. He had a little extra featured part in it. And then I was also doing some acting, and, we just started talking. And then throughout the years, I put him in, as an extra in the background in music videos, and then his parts started growing a little bit more and getting bigger. And then the first major role that he did was the short experimental, where I knew he's perfect because he looks the part and he looks perfect. And then when I got that idea of what the film I was going to make, then I referred back to Fry Barry, because Fry Barry was just the short and there was no connection to it. And when I did that, I was like, oh, this was a short. And then that was it. So when I came up with the idea, then I thought I could link that character to the short, but then how would it work? How would it work with a non-trained actor? But because of the idea that I had, it was perfect. It was absolutely perfect to use him, because he doesn't need to do crazy dialogue. He doesn't need to learn all these things. So the most important thing about Fry Barry working with Gary was the first 10 minutes of the movie when he's a drug addict. And then the rest of it, he didn't have to speak. He just mimicked people. Even if it came off or sounded a little bit different or weird or offbeat, it's fine. He's a fucking alien, so it doesn't fucking matter,
I just want to add, before Paul makes you the next question, that we got a friend that is really, really similar to Gary Green. So if you want to make a prequel, we can give you the phone of our friend.
Okay,
the stuntman. If you need a stuntman for Gary Green.
It's called Gerard Pagans.
So Gary's background, he did a lot of... he's extra normally, but he did do a bit of stunt work as well. Oh. So Gary's background, he actually did a little bit of stunt work as well. But, I started working with him because he's got such an interesting face, and nobody looks like, looks like Gary. And that's what makes him unique and different. And that's why, like you said now, he's perfect for the role. Nobody could have done a better job than him. Even if I got the best actor in the country, it wouldn't work. He is Fry Barry. He has the look. And that's why I think it's funny when some people watch the movie and they go, "Oh, the makeup and the prosthetics," and I'm like, "No, that's Gary. He looks like that. That's how he is."
Yeah. Your movie has been shown to Fantasia, Fantaspoa, Sitges, Molins. By the way, congratulations for the recent award in Terror Molins.
Congratulations, Ryan.
Thank you.
What do you think is the secret ingredient or the main thing that has this movie to be in these major high class festivals? It's the main character is this kind of between the fiction and experimental plot, or what do you think?
I think it's just something different. We're always, I mean, it's like America. America's running out of ideas. You know, they're running out. It's a money machine. It's like all these Marvel movies that get made. They're running out of ideas. There's not many left, and that's why, you know, this movie's not for everybody, and it's not a commercial movie. It's a dark, twisted, funny, offbeat, horror elements, sci-fi elements, and you know, I wouldn't even call the movie a horror movie. It has horror elements, but it's not a typical horror.
How you would define then the movie? Well, if you would define in one word, which was Fried Barry, how you define it?
Like genre.
You can't.
Yeah.
I don't think you can. I don't think you can.
You cannot.
That's why I said it's a genre mashing film. So, you know, you have the elements of horror, you have the elements of sci-fi, and you have a lot of dark comedy, offbeat humor. And I think with all those ingredients and the way it is, I'm wanting to make a cult style film. I'm also wanting to make an iconic cult style character, you know, and that's why it was very important, like the way I dressed him. Because I think over the years, people are always trying to create that another horror character like Hellraiser or like Freddy Krueger or Jason, and you know, people are always looking to try, or Halloween, you know, to create these characters, and I think a lot of these people always, apart from those guys, a lot of these people always, I think, overthinking those things where they try and give them a wardrobe or another mask, and it's another mask character. And I think with Fried Barry, it's his look, it's his style. And even though, you know, his signature thing is the denim jacket and the jeans, that's it. That's his Superman outfit. You know, that's his thing. And it's more to do with his face and the character. And that's what I wanted to create. So, I mean, a lot of thought and a lot of depth into the character and, you know, and the journey that he goes on. And I mean, there's a lot of underlining things in the movie about society and the way people are. And even the way, you know, Fried Barry's an alien, and he's learning and he's becoming more human as the movie goes along. You know, he's actually a better guy than the original Barry, you know?
In this sense, I mean, in South Africa, what about the sci-fi movies in South Africa, of the alien movies? Which is the situation now in South Africa of this kind of movies? I mean, I know your Fried Barry is not a alien or sci-fi movie. I mean, it's different genres united, right?
Yeah.
But what is about, how is the situation in genre situation in South Africa right now?
Well, this is the interesting thing about Fried Barry, is that we don't make movies like this whatsoever. Like whatsoever. There is no, you know, our industry is still quite young, you know, and we make a lot of dramas and rom-com comedies and stuff about apartheid or history and stuff like that's the movies that we make. We don't make anything like this. So for South Africa, it's great because it's the first of its kind to come out of South Africa, which is a big thing. So, I mean, the contents within Fried Barry, the movie, like, there's no way anybody would give me money to make this type of film here. There's no fucking way, because it just breaks all the rules, what's normally allowed to be in South African films. They're like, no. Like, if I had a studio behind me making this film in South Africa, they'd be like, no, take out the blowjob scenes, take out the anal probing, take out this, take out that. That's too hectic. And it wouldn't be what it is. You know, if I take out one of those certain things out of the movie, would the movie still make sense? Yes, it would make sense, but it's not about that. It's about the journey, and it's about these characters, and it's
definitely
about all these people that we meet. We really don't make movies like this. It's definitely the first of its kind, which is great because it's really made that dent so far in the industry to do something different. And people can now see that, hey, we can make these movies. and they are commercially viable to get out there, and other countries will love it, and more so than more the movies that we make here. They a lot of these movies tend to stay in South Africa. What most people make in South Africa, the odd one will go to a few festivals, and then that's it, and it doesn't go further than that.
Now you've brought something to us that is the sex, and in Fried Barry we can see lots of scenes where Barry is having sex, really with no effort. Does that mean that, in your opinion, South Africa is a really easy place to get laid, like easily? And is this your experience?
No. No, I'm not saying that at all. But, so don't come to South Africa. You're not going to get laid. So the thing is with the character, and it's actually funny because, again, it's about the experience. Him meeting somebody, or the other person not knowing, who this person is, that is an alien. So it's just, I always laugh because it's like these aliens come down and they abduct somebody, and it just happens to be that they get a bad drug addict instead of a normal guy. So on his journey, there's people that recognize him as the normal Barry. So, or he goes to these clubs and he meets these girls, and he's in these situations, whether it's the prostitute or this. But I've always said, like, almost he gives off this thing where people want to fuck him, and people want to have sex with him. And as we were doing that, it just became this thing, this theme where, if an alien did come down and it was in a drug addict's body, and he was walking around and going into these clubs, what would happen? And it's all these funny scenarios that would happen. And and it just progressed from that. But the funny thing was, when we had the world premiere in America, I sat there and I watched it for the first time on the big screen. And I was, as I was sitting there, I was going, no, I didn't realize there's so much sex in the beginning of the movie. So it was just like, I was sitting there looking around and looking at people. But it was just the thing that happened. And I think it makes it funnier and it makes it more interesting. And I think Fried Barry is the type of film as well that you want to watch again. You want to watch a second time. Yeah, definitely. And a lot of people have watched it a second time, and a lot of people want to watch it a second time. And I think the second time as well, you'll see there's a lot of interesting things that you'll pick up on the second time that you didn't know about when you watched it the first time. And there's a lot of like little hidden Easter eggs there, and in a lot of the scenes, whether it's in the background or little things that people say. I mean, there's a lot of I love 80s cinema, so there's a lot of 80s cinema references from whether it's Terminator or E.T. or Aliens or Starman or 70s One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. There's a lot of references in the movie.
So, and now that you are talking, I mean, you have been talking of this process, right? Of how Fried Barry was the experience of making a Fried Barry. We'll talk about the experience of watching it, and now let's focus on the experience of making Fried Barry. I would like to ask you, Ryan, if you could add some filming anecdote of how it was the experience of filming in it, because you have an extensive background as a director of short films, but also music clips, and as a director and a scriptwriter of Fried Barry. What about this process that you were talking? But if you had some filming anecdote.
I mean, making Fried Barry, I think anybody that watches Fried Barry, I think you'll be able to tell we had like a lot of fun making this type of movie. We had every day on set. It was a lot of fun. It was crazy every day, and because of the creativity and being in the moment with these other actors, just saying, "Oh, let's try this," and it's so, as an actor myself, it's fun to play around with characters. It's fun to be in the moment instead of going, "This is the script. This is what we have to do." So even though there was a lot of scenes where I wrote the dialogue, but I'm still open to being in the moment and to add stuff and other scenes when there's no dialogue where we can add dialogue. So for me as a director, I'm an actor director. So I love the process of working with actors and being in the moment and coming up with ideas and being open to ideas. Because, like I said, most films, this is the script, this is what we're going to do, is set in stone. And to throw that out the window and just to bounce ideas off each other. And I still shaping it as I go along and saying, add that, take that away, do this, do more of this. And it's a fun process. And working with Gary was obviously very interesting because, there was a lot of things with Gary where I created his walk. And I'm like, I want you to walk like Edward Scissorhands, like Johnny Depp and Edward Scissorhands, where you just plodding along the whole time. And then, and then saying, you're not going to have much dialogue, but it's like the interesting thing was like the girl will say in the club, hey, come back to my place. And then he'll just repeat a line. He'll go, my place. So she still thinks it makes sense. And she's like, no, my place is down the road. Yeah. And then he'll go, yeah. So he's like, cool. And then she'll take him. So all that was like very well thought of, in advance and, how we did it. But I think working with Gary was definitely challenging as he's a non-actor, but also he worked so hard. He would do take after take if I needed it, but he worked super hard. And the interesting thing about Gary is that sometimes like the hard stuff, he takes direction very well. And then the simplest stuff was really hard for him. So, I mean, so sometimes it's like there's one shot in the movie where after the chainsaw scene and then the young girl is sitting there and she's waiting to see who's going to come out of the door. Is it going to be the bad guy or is it going to be Barry? And then Barry walks out and he turns and she smiles. And then, Gary throws his smile. He does this and he does this. That take, I'm not even joking, we probably did 80 takes on that. It was probably the simplest shot of the movie, but it took about 80 takes to do.
Wow.
And I'm not the type of director to do anything that amount of takes. I mean, I think a lot of directors, they're not sure about what they want, so they overcover a scene. And for me, I shoot for the edit. I know what I need. I know what I need to get. I don't need to overshoot anything. And I know exactly what I want. But then there will be a scene like this. And even though it was very simple, he couldn't get there. And my crew would look at me and go, Ryan, well, what do you want him to do? And I'm like, I just want him to walk out, hear something, turn his shoulders, and then smile. And then Gary was doing this. And I'm like, oh my God.
Like that look in Zoolander, no? Like
yeah. And it was just take after take. And then in the end, I said, there must be one I can use. And Gary's like, no, we'll do it again. And I'm like, Gary, if you didn't get it on 79, we're not going to get it on 80. Like, I'll have to look, see.
We'll fix it in post.
We'll fix it in post. So, but apart from that, Gary worked, very hard. It was just a struggle at, sometimes the physical stuff, but he always got there in the end. And like I said, he worked super hard. He was perfect for the role. And he was so determined. I'm so proud of him that, from his background, from being an extra and being, a lead in a movie, he's amazing. He's brilliant. And like you were saying before, I think there's, with every single person, there's that one film that is absolutely, perfect for somebody. And this is his film. I think he'll do a lot more work after this, but I think he'll always be known as, hey, that's Fried Barry.
Totally.
Yeah, it's the crazy alien surprise of this year.
You have mentioned now that not only you are a director, you are also an actor. And we would like to ask you, what do you prefer, the Ryan director or the Ryan actor?
I'll probably be, I love acting. I love doing character work and I really enjoy it. But as an actor, you can't control your, you can't control what you're going to do. You do the audition, you either get it or you don't. So I have no control over my acting career. But as a director, I have full control where this is what I want to make. I'm going to do this. And whether I put myself in the film or not is whatever. but it's one of those where I definitely prefer directing and acting because I've got that control. But at the same time, I love doing characters. I love acting, and I'll always, continue doing acting. But as a director, it's cool because then you write what you want to write. Because I think as actors, if you ask any actor what role would you love to play, and they'll go, this role or this role. They never fucking audition for those type of roles, like ever. So it's just like, as a director, you can make your own decisions and you can make what you want to make or what you haven't seen before.
Well, this is like the official interview, and now we have a little quiz for you. Okay, this is some kind of quiz of like we have a quick question, you have a quick answer, and don't worry because we can edit if you have to overthink the. Okay, the first one.
Are you ready?
Okay,
ready?
I'm ready.
Yeah.
Okay,
let's go.
The first one: best genre movie.
Christine.
Whoa. Best genre director.
David Cronenberg.
Mm-hmm. Best genre actor or actress.
It's a hard one. I think let's say Jeff Goldblum.
Okay, we move to South Africa. Best place to visit.
Cape Town.
Okay, and best thing to do in South Africa? Besides having easily sex.
Take loads of drugs. Best thing to do. I don't know, man. I don't know. I haven't really got a life, so I just work all the time. So come to Cape Town, make a movie.
Movie festivals, best experience.
I'm going to say Sidges. Sidges was amazing. Like I think I got looked after really well there, and the fans of Fry Barry was just amazing in Spain. So yeah, and I think being at the festival obviously made a huge difference, under these times and all that. So I think I think Sitges was just really cool. It was really cool to meet all the fans in Spain, and people just went crazy for it. And it was great to see how everybody reacted.
Nice.
And now for the dark questions. Best person to do drugs with.
Oh, Fry Barry, easy.
Gary Green, yeah.
Gary Green.
So,
just so you know, he doesn't take drugs. Just so you know.
Another one. Best party experience.
Best party experience. Fuck. I don't know. Like back in the day, I did a lot of filming with a lot of major metal and rock bands.
Yeah.
So nobody in particular that I'm thinking of, but. In England, we partied a lot with a lot of big bands in Liverpool and Manchester with filming in hotel rooms and tour buses and shit like that. So there was a lot of there's too many stories, but that was good party experience.
Nice.
Okay, and best weapon to kill someone.
I don't know, a fucking pen.
So then, who you would kill with this weapon? Nowadays,
I don't know, dude. It's so random. I don't know.
Okay, this is the quick question and answer. And before finishing, we always ask the people we interview for a piece of advice. In your case, we like to ask you a piece of advice for those who want to do or their first movie, their first feature movie, or even the first short film.
Yeah, I think people that want to do their first feature, and I think as filmmakers, we get excited and we want to get there quicker than we should. I thought I would make my first film 7 years ago, and it didn't happen. But maybe if I made my film 7 years ago, it probably wouldn't have been nowhere near as good. So I always say to filmmakers that, before you make a feature film, make a shitload of music videos, make a shitload of short films, and every single project you do, you will learn so much. And the people that want to jump the gun and think that they're ready, if they haven't done a lot of stuff, go back, go make stuff, go make more stuff, before you get to a feature, because that time and energy and money that you put into a feature, whether you do it yourself or not, is a thing where at the end of the day, the film business is a money business and you got to sell your film. You know, there's many people that I've spoke to in the past and then they didn't listen and then they've made a film and the sound quality is bad or this is bad or, you know, and everything falls flat and they wasted a lot of money. So you don't want that to happen. So, you know, if you work hard, it can still come to you, but do a lot of stuff first. Just pick up a camera, shoot lots of music videos. Every single thing you do, you learn more and more and more. And my experience of making my first feature film, it's no different than making something else in a way, because it's just a longer form of project where you're spending more days at the same story or the same character. But yeah, I think all those, it's like that 10,000 hour rule, you know, do 10,000 hours and then, you know, you should be fucking good at what you do. And just do that. So yeah, my advice in a nutshell is before you make a feature film, make sure you have a lot of music videos and short films or commercials or whatever you're doing before you make a feature film, because you're going to regret it if it's not up to standard and you can't sell it and you spend that money. So do a lot. I've shot about 100 music videos. I've shot I don't know how many short films or commercials, but it took me a long time to get here, but it's definitely worth it because you learn and you grow and you make mistakes. And it's okay to make mistakes at the beginning. You get to a point where you can't make mistakes. So make those mistakes earlier on in your career, because later on, you're not gonna, it's not gonna go down well.
By the way, some ideas for the next movie?
So the next movie that I'm gonna make, all I can say is that it's a very dark, twisted time travel movie.
Wow.
That's
yeah,
interesting.
Perfect. Ryan, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure. Thank you so much, guys, for having me. I really enjoyed it. So yeah, thanks for enjoying the movie and everything. I really, really, really appreciate it. Thanks, guys.